Hey, welcome into the Husker247 Daily YouTube cast podcast. I don't know. I got to figure that out if I'm going to keep doing that every day. Should probably be better about it, but so it is. Just me today. No Brian Christopherson, as you can see if you are watching on YouTube. If you're just listening, going to be a solo 10-minute session with Mike Schaefer. So if you want to just back out now, no hard feelings. I understand. But I figured we could hit on some of the recruiting as Nebraska has both a big weekend coming up with Michigan State, but 24/7 Sports has also released its new rankings. And in those new rankings, Trey Taylor, Nebraska's top commitment, has received a healthy bump. He is just now outside of the top 32 players in the country. And when 2027, the class of 2027, when that becomes a primary class, uh, 32 guys usually end up with 5 stars. That's the way that 24/7 Sports does it. There's 32 picks in the NFL draft when the Patriots aren't cheating. And so normally there'd be 32 5 stars. They'll get there to some point. And so Trey Taylor has a real opportunity to be a potential 5 star. He would be one of the higher rated commits Nebraska's picked up. Wandale Robinson and Carter Nelson are up there as well. But Trey Taylor, right on the precipice of being a potential 5 star. Torrey Pittman was in that range as well. He's kind of slid back a little bit in the rankings. I don't think that's a big deal. He's still a top 100 player, still the number one player in the state of Nebraska. I just saw him on Friday night. He had an interception, he had a touchdown. He's a guy that I'd like to see a little bit more action from sometimes in the course of a game, but sometimes when you're a safety and teams can stay away from you, they're able to do that. And so I think Torrey Pittman is going to be just fine. I would look for him to stay in the top 247. It wouldn't surprise me if he continues to slide down just a little bit until maybe he starts to be a little more dominating in games. Tremendous athlete. I think people just want to see a little bit more on the game film. And then the other thing here is Nebraska's new commitment, Jabari Watkins, wide receiver from Georgia, that they picked up during the bye week. He's also in the top 247. So Nebraska has 3 commitments already in the top 247. It's been a great start to the 2027 class. Matt Erickson, part of that class as well. The Huskers are looking to add more talent. They're looking to avoid sort of the situation they were in the spring where they didn't have as many commitments as I think they would have liked to as they went into kind of the critical part with June. And so then you got to really close out. They did a pretty good job. Um, they put together a solid 2026 class so far. It's not going to look great in the recruiting rankings, but I think there's a few guys in there that ultimately are going to be some pretty big wins for Nebraska should they sign those guys. So I think they've been able to build relationships for a few years. I think they've always kind of pushed for this sort of point in time to kind of really make 2027 a marquee class. And to do that, you've got to be able to bring in talent. And they've got these commitments already. Nebraska's 3 commitments are among the best of any program in the country for the 2027 class. Now, we are talking about juniors. There's a lot of lead time before December of 2026 when they can put pen to paper, or if, as we undergo all these rules changes throughout college football, if there's a shift and maybe there's an earlier signing period, somebody like Trey Taylor could sign sooner than later. We'll find out on that one. But as I said, Nebraska has these 3 commitments. There's only 2 programs that are better in the top 247 right now in terms of overall commitments, and that's Penn State and Oklahoma. I believe each of them have 4 commitments at this time. So Nebraska is recruiting at a pretty high level for the 2027 class. And a big reason for that is they've done a great job of getting people on campus. And it goes back for years now where you've had players, especially in the region, guys that I'm going to be talking about here shortly, guys that are actually coming in for the Michigan State game that have been here multiple times, that are familiar with Nebraska football, that it's not just coming in and, never seen anything before, so it's all new. No, they've been here. They know this staff. They know this environment. Some of them have been for game days. Some of them came for that huddle symposium. Some of them came for a camp. Some of them came for the battle at the Boneyard. And, Nebraska having all of these events and getting people in, that only increases their chances of getting some of these 2027 recruits. And so I think it's a big deal for Nebraska to be where they're at. So 24/7 Sports released their new top 247, and I went through it the other day, and I'm sure I missed a couple names in there, but Nebraska has had more than 20 recruits on campus since the spring that are inside the top 247, and even more are expected throughout this season. Like, that's pretty impressive to be able to bring people to Nebraska. We're told constantly the issue with the Nebraska job is you can't get recruits here. Well, Nebraska is getting them to visit. Getting them to visit and getting them to commit, not always the same thing, but you can't get the commitments if you never get them to campus. So you got to start at step one. And they've done a really nice job with that. And some of these are like big names, like known names. I mean, Ahmad Hudson, who's already a 5-star for the 2027 cycle. He's down there in Louisiana. He's a 2-sport athlete. Would love to see him on the basketball court as well at some point in his future. But this is a guy that Nebraska is recruiting really hard. Trey Taylor is recruiting really hard. Fred Hoiberg is recruiting really hard. It would be a game-changing type addition for Nebraska athletics because he is that kind of player and he can play in multiple sports. Now, we've seen multiple sport athletes. It doesn't always work out. So probably a cart a little bit ahead of the horse there. But Ahmad Hudson has already dominated Memorial Stadium. He's part of the battle with the Boneyard. He jumped in with Trey Taylor. They played on a team, I believe it was Team Raw, that was there that weekend. I believe they won the entire event. And so Ahmad Hudson's a guy that Nebraska fans are already familiar with. He's expected to come back, I believe, November 1st for the USC game. And this is someone who's the number 10 player in the country per 24/7 Sports right now. And so that's a guy to kind of keep an eye on. We know LSU is going to be involved, but Nebraska has done a really, really nice job. So you got a guy like Ahmad Hudson. There's also Kennedy Brown. You got Juju Johnson. You have KJ Green. I mean, they have brought in some really, really talented high-end players. And you've got guys like Trey Taylor and Torrey Pittman that have been here a lot of weeks as well. And so Nebraska has done a really nice job with that. But it goes beyond just sort of the known names, the ones that everybody is sort of familiar with in the recruiting world, that these are your top guys. I think part of Nebraska's success is that they do a lot of evaluating and they evaluate really well. And so you end up with guys like Jackson Roper, Will Slagle, Cameron Wagner. They've all been on campus. They've been on campus early. They have good relationships with the staff. These are all regional offensive line recruits that are in the top 247. I don't know that Nebraska is going to get all of them. I don't know that Nebraska is necessarily going to get any of them. I think that they put themselves in a great spot where you have guys like Cameron Wagner that have been to campus multiple times. Will Slagle has been to campus multiple times. Jackson Roper is talking about he's sitting there on the sideline before the Michigan game, imagining what it'd be like if he was running out of the tunnel for warmups ahead of this big game. And then you got this crowd, you got this environment. And he said he could see himself absolutely in a place like that. So I think it's really important that Nebraska has done the due diligence, done the work, and they're bringing in players and they're bringing in recruits and they're making sure that that relationship that they're building from afar continues when they're here in person, and a good jumping off point there when they get these guys on campus. So we'll kind of continue to track, that top 247 list and who's Nebraska is able to bring in, and like a weekend they have ahead with Michigan State. I mean, you've got a guy like Cooper Terwilliger, talented athlete from South Dakota that Nebraska went and saw during the bye week, as someone that they're clearly very interested in. Plays for TF Riggs High School up there in South Dakota. He's coming back. I believe Michael Bruns posted on the board. It's like at 4th or 5th visit to Nebraska at this point. Frederick Ards, a lineman from Jones High School. He is a talented top 247 defender as well. He's coming up from Orlando to check out what Nebraska has going on. Kyler Kuhn is coming over from Kansas City. This is St. Pius X, or St. Pius X, offensive lineman. I believe he's been to Nebraska multiple times. Jordan Agbanoma recently appeared in the top 247. This is a guy from Georgia. Nebraska offered early. He's at Grayson, a powerhouse program down there. He's in the top 100 players in the country. Recently got evaluated there. Nebraska jumped on the board early. They're getting a visit this weekend. So these are the kind of guys that they're bringing in for future classes. 2028, they've got Casey Barner, Giovanni Tuggle, top safeties in the country, top 247 players. They're coming from North Carolina. You got in-state players like Micah Benning and Jace Reynolds, Justin Parrish. They're all stopping by as well. Ty Tessendorf. I mean, so Nebraska's doing it on all ends. I mean, they're recruiting in the state. They're recruiting top end guys. They're recruiting nationally. And I think that's commendable. And they've done a really nice job with it. One more name I want to leave with you that's coming in this weekend, Josiah Teasley. He's a wide receiver from out east, committed to Virginia, but he is definitely looking around, looking at his options. 6'5", 190 pounds, 3-star on 24/7 Sports. Recently picked up Penn State offer, was just out there for a visit. Florida's getting in the mix here. Nebraska's certainly in the mix here. So that's someone to kind of keep an eye on. He's coming out this weekend, unofficial visit. If all goes well, you could see him back potentially for an official visit if Nebraska feels good about things and if Josiah feels good about things. So, like I said, sort of a solo show, gave me an opportunity to kind of hit on some recruiting. I know there's quite a few of you out there who want more in-depth coverage of that, and just kind of wanted to run through what big visit weekend and kind of just where Nebraska's at for future classes as 2027 looks really, really nice. And Nebraska got a big stretch of games here in October. You put some wins together, and 2027 could look even better before we're even in the calendar year of 2026. So appreciate you guys listening as I drone on about recruiting here and enjoying a solo podcast here on Thursday. So if you want more non-Mike Schaefer content, you can always find that at Husker247.com. Plenty of stuff from BC, plenty of stuff from Brunts. I'll have a few things as well. We got plenty of coverage. We got the Hypecast up. Connor Happer, our guest this week, so you want to check that out. So be sure to get over to Husker247.com. We'll be back tomorrow for another Husker247 Daily. We will make sure there's someone besides just me because I know I'm pretty tough to look at. So we'll catch you tomorrow.